Progressive Victory, which I want to look at something real quick, right? Because I feel like this is really important. Here's the problem with Progressive Victory. Okay, he got paid by Progressive Victory, and he said that he didn't do canvassing.
Well, he did. He admitted it now. So I don't know if
right, but he said before. Hold on,
maybe he did.
He said before that he had not done canvassing. Okay, so here's the deal. There was only two things that Progressive Victory was doing with streamers. A, they were doing canvassing, and he was on their payroll. Okay, so either A, he lied about it continuously, or B, he was doing the other thing. The other thing they were doing, which we know that they were doing, is that they were having meetings on how to appeal to conservatives. Which means...
He admits to doing.
Right, which he admits to doing. So let's he lied about that, but here's the problem. What he was doing for Progressive Victory was he was in meetings with people on how to get Progressive Victory, which I want to look at something real quick, right? Because I feel like this is really important, because when people hear Progressive Victory, they just think like, oh, lefties, right? Like, let's go to progressivevictory.com, right?
I've been there. I've read this. Yes.
Okay. And we go to their about section and we go, our mission. So here's the mission statement of Progressive Victory. Progressive Victory is committed to building our community of new to activism volunteers by empowering members to develop the skills and gain the knowledge needed to become lifelong activists. Progressive Victory's unifying mission is to ensure progressive candidates are elected to positions of power and progressive policy is implemented. So he's helping leftists achieve progressive policies that are further left than the Democratic Party. Over the long term, Progressive Victory aims to create a progressive power block within the Democratic Party that is too big to ignore. So he's not just taking money from the left, all right, because he's against Trump. He's taking money to help leftists achieve the goal of making the Democratic Party more socialist, and to ensure that both Republicans are defeated and that the Democratic Party stops supporting any level of capitalism, stop supporting, Medicare for all, larger welfare state. Like this idea that you can pretend to be a conservative that was just trying to stop Trump from getting elected whilst taking money from an institution that is designed to not only let the left win, because you can make that argument. Look, I really don't like Trump. I think he's a threat.
Totally agree.
I want like someone like Biden who was seen or sold as, even though he wasn't, as center left candidate, et cetera. Right? You're taking money and helping and aiding an organization that's goal is to push this country further left than the Democratic Party.
And I bring that up every time I talk to him about it. I'm like, they were doing two things. I could stomach you saying, I fucking hate Trump. Because he calls himself a conservative, a Burkean conservative. The antithesis of that would be these progressives, right? That would be the antithesis. Right. So how could you get paid by... I have no problem with someone... I don't give a fuck. You call yourself Republican. He calls
it's
yourself...
kind of Burkean conservatism strategy for the Democrats, right? It's slowly pushing the Democrats, further left. It's kind of Burkean conservative. But it's that strategy, just not for conservatism.
Right. So I don't mind... You can call yourself whatever ideology. You could be an ANCAP. And you could say, I fucking hate Trump. Conservative, Christian conservative, fiscal conservative, Tea Party conservative, whatever. You could say, I hate Trump. I'm not going to I don't think you're an immoral person. I don't think you're a sellout. I don't think you're a grifter. You have every right to do that. People make their own decisions, fine. What I took umbrage with was, how could you call yourself a conservative and then work with the group that's the antithesis of it for two things? It's not just for Trump. Mm-hmm. It's one, to win elections, including down ballot. So it's not like you're saying, hey, I'm going to vote down ballot for Republicans, but fuck Trump, I ain't voting for him, right? That's number one. And second, exactly what you just said. Their stated mission is to basically create activists to make Democrats more progressive. And that's who you're working with. That's literally and basically, when it gets down to brass tacks, you know what the answer is? Trump's evil. It's okay because Trump's evil. He's the worst.
Yeah.
We could prevent, and he's already saying.
Well, it's like I think Trump's evil. All right, I think Trump's evil. But the cool thing about being a libertarian is that you guys want me to hate Trump especially, and I can't. Because he's just not worse than the other ones.
That's right.
He's just not. You know what I mean? Fuck off.
Well, that's even for me, right?
And he's better in some
libertarian
ways.
adjacent, right? But my big issue is, just as a stupid fucking redneck, is corruption. And I see how corrupt these institutions are, like USAID, the CIA, the FBI, etc. And for me, I look at that as almost this monolithic power, and that Trump represents someone that's potentially on the outside of it, so they've weaponized against him. And so I don't like the left never gets this when they debate me. I would sell right now Trump going to prison for the rest of his life if it meant the directors of the FBI and all these people that engaged in the double standard went too. I don't give a fuck. I want the corruption to end. That's what I want. I'm not in it for one guy. Them, though, the way they'll bill it is like all of it is justified because Trump is this unique evil. So you take this like Eric Adams thing. What's going on with this Eric Adams is uniquely evil. You mean to tell me that you, Conor, who's already admitted that you think the Justice Department, the FBI was incredibly corrupt under the past 8 years, you don't think that they routinely let people off the hook when they know they have them on crimes for some quid pro quo? Like, that's all law enforcement. That's certainly what our intel agents do. That's certainly what the FBI does. And to be like, yeah, and it's everything. Well, violating a court order, violating a temporary restraining order. Yep. You don't think that presidents have done shit like that all the time, or at least in the spirit of that? Like, and so the idea that they're saying like, well, this is this unique evil, and then think about it. Like, you started off by saying this, like the idea of USAID. Here's an argument against Trump. How could Trump claim that he's trying to save us money while at the same time the Republicans are pushing a military budget that's blowing out the fucking budget again? Right? So, like, that's a legitimate argument. However, the argument they're making is like, well, no, Trump and Elon are so uniquely corrupt that they're not allowed to look in to where all this money's going. They can't. But trust us, if it was another guy, we would let them. Of course, there's never been another guy because we constantly vote for people that continue to fund all of this bullshit. But trust us, if there was a hypothetical another guy, then we would be cool with all of these audits. They're not. Yeah, they're blatantly covering up corruption because they don't want people to know where the money's going.
Well, so like, here's how you know that these people are evil, and that these people that are defending USAID, and like pretending that they care about corruption, because if they cared about corruption, what they'd be talking about is the fact that Elon Musk got USAID money to have Starlink in Ukraine to utilize as a means of fighting the Russians. That we were utilizing American taxpaying dollars to support the war efforts against another nation, and that this money was designed to do that. Now, you may agree with that, you may disagree with that, right? Like, you may be a pro, you could like you can talk like whatever, right? Like, we can have that debate set aside. But if you are genuinely concerned about USAID and his involvement, you'd be like, look, here, this motherfucker has gotten USAID money. Like, this motherfucker has, SpaceX and these other things that get government grants, and I don't trust someone that is, beholden to regulation and gets money from the government and gets, to be the one that is kind of like making all of these recommendations because there's a conflict of interest there. That's a rational conversation to have about why you believe that Elon Musk, who is, like Vox Populi guy, probably shouldn't be the one in charge of Doge, even though I agree that the concept of Doge is a good idea. Right. And if you were having that argument with me, we could have that argument. But the reason you're not having that argument with me is because you don't want me to peek behind the fucking curtain. Right. You don't want me to actually look at USAID. You don't want me to actually look at how the CIA and the State Department and the National Intelligence and how the National Endowment for Democracy and how the Council on Foreign Relations and how Hillary Clinton's campaign, associated NGO that gets something like fucking $8 billion for like what is it, Chuboka? I can't remember the name of it. You don't want me to talk about In-Q-Tel, the fact that the CIA has a fucking investment firm that utilized Black and Vetch to buy a level 4 biolabs on the border of Russia and Ukraine. And you don't want to fucking talk about Burisma. You don't want to fucking talk about Metabiota. And you don't want to fucking talk about the fact that the founder of Metabiota was connected with Jeffrey Epstein through Ghislaine Maxwell. You don't want me to look at any of this fucking shit. Okay. You just want to say Elon crazy, Trump bad. Yeah. Because your arguments lack substance, and the substance is right there for the picking. Like, that is a perfectly reasonable and easy argument to make. But the problem is that you'd actually have to showcase that you give a fuck about the fact that we use soft power to make lefty and right-wing organizations and corporations rich through U.S. taxpayer to fucking fund all these coups and bullshit.
So two things.
Sorry, I know I got long-winded, but we both do that.
Yeah, that's right. Two things on this. One, I debated Pisco last night, and he brought up this case of the conflict of interest. Okay, fine. One of the questions I asked him to prove to your point here, I said, okay, if he shouldn't be involved in these audits or the freezing of aid, which they're not doing, but still, if that's going to be the argument, should the judge that's halting that, if his wife makes her living from money that comes from USAID, is that a conflict of interest? What do you think his answer was? No. What if the judge himself is on an NGO and gets $200,000 a year from USAID that's just been frozen? Would him ruling on that be a conflict of interest? Well, I'm not sure. That's how you know they're full of shit. They're gonna gnash their teeth over over Musk. And then the other thing I'll say is like let me go on a bit of a tangent here for a second. Why are me
it's
and
like
you,
Paul Pelosi? You know what I mean?
Why are me or you never gonna be Tim Pool or fucking Destiny or anybody with viewership like that? Well, you've already said a lot of the reason, right? If you're sort of ideologically consistent and you're doing it because you're just saying things you believe, it'd be easy to pander, but we're really not doing it. There's other things, like I don't know how consistent you are. I'm not very consistent streaming, whatever. But there's reasons that we won't be, right?
I got other shit in my life, you know what I mean?
Right. Let's say, though, hypothetically, that objectively you can see in a crystal ball and say, Fabian would be the absolute best guy to have Tim Pool type numbers every day. The country and the culture would go in a far better direction. Right? Let's say you're able to look at the crystal. The truth is that's never going to be you, right? There's going to be someone that's a Tim Pool. The same is true of someone like Trump and someone like Musk and the concept of Doge. The truth is, because our political system at this point is so fucked up and people are so entwined on both sides, Republican and Democrat, you're not going to get someone that runs for president, is able to win, that's going to be willing to do these audits. You're not. You're going to get people that aren't perfect. You're going to get narcissistic people like Trump and Elon who are independently wealthy that are not good in many ways, right? But that's the only game in town. If it was up to me, Ron Paul would be auditing the Fed today. But that's not how it happened.
Well, he might.
Well, I know, which is fucked up. He might be. But I wanted Ron Paul to win in 2008.
That's not fucked up. That'd be awesome.
Well, I mean, it's fucked up that we're at that
justice.
point. Right? We're at that point where that could happen. But I wanted him to win. Ron Paul would have been far better to accomplish this task in 2008 than Trump now. But it didn't happen because it couldn't happen because the system's so
audit the
fucked
Fed.
up.
Well, I want to point out something interesting too, right? And it just goes to show you like how special Trump is in some regard. Audit the Fed has been on the RNC's platform for over 40 years. If you read the Republican National Committee's party platform, which is, this is what Republicans believe, audit the Fed has been there for decades. And they have held all three branches of government multiple times since then, okay? And they never audited the Fed. Okay, that's another part of this process that we have to recognize is like Trump can come in with a couple of people that are his own people, right? Trump, I have ideological differences with Trump, but he's also brought in some swamp creatures, right? He's absolutely brought in some swamp people. Some people bought by Israel, some people that are, the Speaker of the House is a fucking problem as far as I'm concerned, right? Like he's made a coalition with swamp creatures. But the thing is that like most Republicans are swamp creatures. Most Democrats are swamp creatures, right? Like, I recognize that we're going to have to compromise to get anything done, and I'll celebrate the victories and I'll talk shit on the failures, as they occur. That's my role, right? Like, as much as it sucks, my role is kind of to sit on the sidelines and be a constant whiny naysayer that is never happy with what's going on, because my ultimate goal is the fucking disillusionment of the state.
Right.
But at the same time, right? Like there is this, I'll tell you this. I have noticed a shift in politics that really does scare me. Okay. And the shift that I've noticed is that much of the left before this inauguration of Trump, or we'll say, election of Trump in 2024, right? Were very subversive, and that's them. Okay, whatever. They were subversive, but there was always an element of like trying to find one flaw in what you were saying and then make that the entire argument and then gaslight from that portion of the argument and use like unconnected data that like is a straw man argument. Like we've seen these tactics for years. And what I have seen since in like the last few months is I have seen a majority of left-wing people don't even do that anymore. Like they're completely just they'll bite any bullet.
Yep.
They'll say anything. They don't subvert your own arguments and then gaslight from that position on your argument. They just say talking points. And it's like TDS has become a real thing. And the reason that terrifies me is because if you're connected to reason, rationality, A equals A, existence exists, and care about some level of logic, there's hope for you to realize the error of your ways and to learn the philosophy, come to a better place. But if you are so ideologically captured that you just scream talking points, right? Like I watched the opening statement of that soy pilled guy, right? Perfect example of that. Like he's just screaming talking points that are like contradictory and like, Project 2025 and fucking this and that. It's like there's no argument. There's no stream of connection. There's no, like, they didn't reason their way to that argument. They have just swallowed the blue pill fully. And the reason that terrifies me is that, like, when that happens, history tells us that we have to use violence to stop those people.
Yeah,
I'm not advocating for that on YouTube.
Right.
I want to make that clear. I'm not advocating for it. I'm saying that that's an unfortunate historical reality
to prevent from
that,
happening. Right.
That, like, when we get to that point, history has told us time and time again that, like, maybe Tim Pool's right. You know what I mean? Like, civil war's coming type shit. Like, I don't know that it's civil war, obviously, but like we're in for a rough fucking road if people have stopped being connected to reason and kind of just believe whatever slop is told to them, even if it's completely contradictory to reality.
Well, and one of the things I've said for a long time is now we know, we're going to find out more how many of so many of these protest groups around the world and in the United States were connected to funding through our tax dollars. Like, we're going to find that out. And I've said for a long time.
We'll know some of it.
Well, yeah, that's right. We'll see. But I've made the claim for a long time that if you think a group like Antifa is violent now, they're violent while they have institutional protection. And the problem is they'll get more desperate. And the same is true of just like sort of the argumentative style as well. As they're so used to having almost every institutional advantage that as that grabs from them, they look at just with Conor tonight. Like, it would have been unthinkable 3 years ago that he would just basically intentionally nuke his channel Mine by screaming the F slur over and over and over again. Like, that's like, it's like, what? Like, or the shit he was saying tonight, it would have been almost unimaginable 3 years ago. When you see
that he would do it, like, you'd think someone would, but not him.
Right. Like, or when Destiny, starts spurging out after the assassination attempt. Like, they're losing their fucking mind because they've gaslit themselves to believing that Trump's this fucking unique evil and everything's going to be on the table. Everything. And it's troubling. Like, I only have like 10 more minutes, so I'll segue this into the Wick.
Yeah, I got to get out of here soon too.
So I'll segue this into the Wick shit. The big argument that people are having with me is that I'm not interested in talking about corruption to people that have defended it, because I think that oftentimes this is some Saul Alinsky shit as well, right? Controlling the narrative, right? And so they'll force you to condemn what they themselves celebrate, right? And so, like, take an easy example, kids in cages. Trump had kids in cages. Trump had cages. Oh my God. Condemn it. The truth is, they don't give a shit about kids in cages, but they know someone like me and you do. Yes, there are times where, like, tragically bad outcomes are necessary and you have to choose between the lesser of two evils, but we don't like that. And so we're willing to answer that because the moral part of us is like, yeah, that's heartbreaking. We don't want to see that, right? But then as soon as Biden gets in office and there's 3 times more kids in cages, they're like, fuck them kids. We don't care about these kids. They're different types of kids. We don't give a shit. And it just goes to show they never gave a shit about the kids in cages. So why, if now they start yelling about kids in cages again, why would I give a shit?